If you haven't listened to part 1 of this conversation yet, I encourage you to go back and start there. And not because you'll be lost without it, but because Michelle's story deserves to be heard from the beginning. Here's where we've been so far. Michelle, known online as Rising Phoenix, discovered her husband's affair when she sat down one morning at a laptop that had been left open on the table. 22 years of marriage, and the truth was right there on the screen. What followed was a first year she described as exhausting in ways that are hard to put into words. Disassociation, missing days, a trauma bond that kept her in a painful in-between, not quite staying, not quite leaving. Her children were devastated and angry. And somewhere around the 1-year mark, Michelle's body and mind finally hit a wall. She broke down. And as hard as that was, it turned out to be the moment that things began to shift. That's where we left off. Today, we pick up on the other side of that turning point. We're going to talk about what healing actually looked like for Michelle, what it took to rebuild a sense of self, what it meant to finally establish boundaries she could live inside of, how intimacy found its way back into her marriage, how trust, a different and deeper kind of trust, got rebuilt, and what her marriage looks like today. Michelle doesn't oversell any of this. She's not here to tell you that it was easy or that her path is the one that you should follow. She's just here to be honest about her story. And in my experience, that kind of honesty is exactly what people in the middle of this want to hear. I'm Tim Tedder, creator of AffairHealing.com. Thank you for joining us today.
Welcome to The Recovery Room, a podcast presented by AffairHealing.com.
In this healing place, in this healing place.
You describe a marriage that before the infidelity already had its issues, things that were never really understood or acknowledged, and it just was what it was. Then this bomb gets dropped into the middle of that and makes even more of a mess, and that affected you both in so many ways. But you're very clear in the description of all the fallout that came to you. How did it start to change? You've talked a lot about the first year of uncertainty and then gaining clarity of what was going on with you, starting to work on that. When did you begin to shift to, all right, let's work on this marriage. Let's work on us?
Once I was able to really understand what was happening with me, physically, emotionally, and mentally, I was able to take and reflect on that year and look at, as messy as it was, all the work that he had been doing, the consistency that I had been asking for.
So he had been doing that already.
He had been doing that.
You just weren't at a place where you could accept it or acknowledge it yet.
100%.
Yeah.
Outside of that trickle truth, he had been doing absolutely everything he could do to show that he was fully committed to rebuilding, to taking our marriage and saving it. And so I had to reflect on that. And then I had to reflect and understand that, what do I need to stay? What do I need to make this decision? How do I make sure that I stay safe in my own body? Because it's still unknown. At that point, it was still unknown. I don't know what this future is going to look like. Am I taking another risk? Am I going to hold out for more hope and be disappointed again? And if I do, how am I going to feel about that if that happens again? So I had to kind of really take a look at all of that, and then take a look at our life and take a look at what he had been doing, and really want to go through the process, to go through the healing. And that meant setting my boundaries and giving him the ability to say, this is where I'm at. I'm going to own my stuff, and I'm going to take care of my mental health. And that was huge for me. I didn't want him promising me that it would never happen again. I didn't want to hear those words, because you've just shown me that it can happen.
Yeah, you've promised me things before.
Yeah. What I needed him to promise was he was going to focus on his mental health.
It's interesting, Michelle, because, of course, I think on the other side of betrayal, it'd be nice to hear someone's intent, like, I never want to do this to you again. But you're right. Making the promise, like, okay, I promise I'll never do this. It's hard to accept it when yeah, but you've made promises before. How am I supposed to trust them now?
Yeah.
You've identified what was more important for you, that he get help, that he pay attention to these things that had always been problematic for him, that he learned to deal with them in a way that's different. And I think that's one way of saying what's going to help me feel secure is that you take responsibility for the changes you need to make for something different. And if I see you doing that and I witness that showing up in your life and our relationship, hey, I can hang hope onto that. I can learn to trust that. Yeah, I think that's really important. And, for some, it's not maybe dealing with particular psychological issues or diagnoses that they've had from the past. Maybe it's other kinds of patterns. Maybe it's other kinds of issues. I talk about all the stuff that's been kept in the basement of someone's life, of just bringing clarity to that and giving attention to it, speaking honestly about it and saying, hey, here's the stuff that I'm going to deal with differently from now on. And let my actions show you I'm serious about that. Yeah, I think that's where you learn to trust. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, 100%.
There's so many ways that a relationship has to heal afterwards. Now, you talked about trying to find your way back to physical intimacy after betrayal. Mm-hmm. Some couples move quickly and easily into this as almost as a way of rebonding again, but there are a lot of couples that really struggle with it. And you describe intimacy as something that felt territorial or confusing. To talk about that, what did you mean by that?
Intimacy was taken from us and given to somebody else. The idea of intimacy with him afterwards was awful. I didn't want to. It's been tainted.
Yeah.
It's almost dirty now because I can't, and I didn't want to. And so we went through this time frame where there was nothing. He was in the spare room. I wanted nothing to, don't even hug me. Nothing. But then it shifted and it changed. And I don't know if it was because I was so unsure of myself and I wanted something to prove, or if I just missed him. I didn't know. And I couldn't really put my finger on it, or the same for him. But when it did come back, it was territorial. It was, we need to try and fix something. We need to feel some connection. We need to bring back what was lost. We need to bring back what we had before and what's now been stolen from us. And it was angry. There was no compassion. We were trying, but it was just painted with so much stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about being fueled by anger. I mean, this sense of, I'm getting back what was taken from me. I deserve this. Make it mine or ours. I think I understand something of what you're describing. But what's missing is longing, compassion, love.
Yeah. That came later.
Okay.
That came much later. It did return. Absolutely, it did. But that came much later. Probably after the year mark. That's where that shifted, because we shifted. We had some healing and we were looking at ourselves differently. We were looking at the whole thing differently.
When you look back, do you think there was still some value being sexually connected, physically intimate, even though it wasn't all worked out yet? Was there still value in that? Or do you look back and saying that probably wasn't really helpful to us? Would it have been better to wait till all the feelings and the healing and stuff there, or was there still some value of even having that connection, even though it was a little bit messed up?
I'm going to say probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
Probably a little bit of all of the above. You're going through so many emotions that you can't name or understand. And even though it was angry and it was intense, we still deeply loved each other. And we weren't ready to give that up.
You write about choosing myself. It's a strong theme in some of your writing.
Yeah.
What did that actually look like in daily life for you?
Focused on keeping my peace. And that was hard. I had never really chosen myself. In my world, people pleaser, always making sure everybody else had their needs, everybody else was happy, and their world was good. Choosing myself meant putting me as a priority. saying no instead of yes, allowing myself to feel the feelings that I needed to feel in situations that were uncomfortable, or not overextending myself.
What boundaries did you finally set that changed things for you?
His mental health was one for sure. There was no question about that one. Not allowing or accepting undersharing.
Hmm.
I want full transparency. Not allowing or staying in situations that did not bring me peace. And that sometimes included people. Friendships. Friendships are a huge thing. And if you're having private conversations, there's a boundary that's just not allowed to happen.
So many times the view of boundaries is that it's just a defensive move. It's a self-protective move. In fact, it can be seen as something that's just very selfish. Like I just am taking care of myself. I'm standing up for what I want and what I deserve. And so I'm establishing these boundaries. But I think when we really understand it, we see that it's not only the things that are necessary for me to be healthy and whole, but in the context of a relationship, if I don't establish these things, we're not going to be good.
Yeah.
And I care enough about this relationship to say, here are the things that I need. And I know that there are things I need to bring to it as well, but here are some things that are important to me. And if we're going to be in this relationship together, you need to understand this, respect it, and kind of be willing to live with me within these boundaries. And if you had established those boundaries and he looked at that and said, yeah, I just don't want to go to counseling, or I'm just not comfortable opening up. I mean, what do you think your response to that would have been?
At one point prior to the affair, I was like, oh, okay.
Just live in the disappointment, I guess.
Just live in the disappointment.
Yeah.
That shifted after I started healing myself, after I started taking a look at who I was and the things that I needed to be safe and to keep my peace. If those words had come out of his mouth, yeah, we'd be having a different conversation. I was ready at that point. I wasn't ready before. And those words did come out of his mouth at one point. They didn't come out this time.
What does your second marriage look like? I mean, it's the same marriage, but it's a new version of it.
It's a new version of it. It looks like peace. It looks like respect. It looks like honesty, total transparency. We have fun together. We laugh together. We have conversations that we have never had before. We challenge each other in life. You know, we word things differently. There's a lot of responding. There's no more reacting. There's a difference between reacting and responding. And we reacted towards each other for years. But even if there's a situation where he's not able to regulate or I'm not able to regulate, we're allowed and we're open to supporting each other in that. We also take responsibility for our own behaviors and our own unregulated systems. And we hold each other accountable for that.
So what does that look like for your husband? I mean, taking responsibility for himself. And what does he do differently now than he did before?
Takes care of his mental health. I can't even express that enough. That is such a major change in the dynamics of how he lives every day. When you heal from infidelity is one thing, but his ADHD and BPD, that will always be a part of his life, which then is a part of our life. So that is a major changer. He's aware of himself. When he's feeling an emotion that he knows is unhealthy, he takes a check-in. He takes accountability for his behavior. He has patience. He showed up.
And he didn't show up before.
He didn't show up before.
How about you? How do you do this marriage differently now than you did before? You've talked about you understand being able to articulate boundaries in a healthy way. What else is different?
I stopped chasing approval. I learned to say no. I accept that I cannot control other people and what they do. And that was a huge one for me. When we were having our struggles in our marriage, it was always me trying to get that motivation going for him, but that's not on me. That was on him, and that's still on him. It's not on me. I prioritize my peace. I respond instead of reacting. I also have to take a look at what I'm feeling in the moment and realizing that, that might not be a nice thing to come back to, or it might be, maybe I can approach it differently. So it's all about how we feel in our bodies and situations and how we're going to support each other and help each other. And that's very different for both of us.
And has that turned into feeling more loved by each other, do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Deeper love. Like I loved him. He loved me. But we had to learn that love is not a feeling. It's an action word. And you have to be able to show it. Words and actions match. There's a lot of compassion between the two of us. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of, we miss each other throughout the day.
It's been 5 years. Do you trust him today?
Might be hard for some, but I trust him more today than I did for years. Absolutely, I do. You hear that when you're in the process, you'll trust will never be the same. And I respond to, you're right. Actually, trust is not the same. It is stronger. It is deeper. It is more open. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think what's lost a lot of times is if anybody had like the innocent trust, you just trust by default because that's just what you do, which I think is kind of how we're wired in relationships. That's not a bad thing. But once betrayal hits, you're never going to just trust innocently again. No. But your story, I've been part of before, and I've been witness to it before. Like, oh, the things we're learning about ourselves and what we bring to the relationship and the consistency that we're seeing in each other to be committed to that. That's a kind of trust that's based on real action that was missing before. And so there is a sense where the trust is deeper. I believe for myself, I'm more trustworthy now than I was before I ever had an affair. Just because of what I've learned and what I can own and what I can clearly say. Oh, I can tell you what that old version of me, what that's going to look like if it shows up in a relationship. But I also can tell you those characteristics of the person that shows up who is trustworthy and faithful and wants to love well.
Yeah.
So when you see that, when you experience it, when you're hearing that from each other, when you're observing it, yeah, it's a whole different kind of trust.
It's a whole different kind of trust. Yeah. You know, when you're going through the process, there were times where he'd have his phone and he would quickly put it away. And this was after the affair. And it would make me nervous and I'd feel anxious. But then he would notice that. And then he would show me exactly what was happening. And he likes to put his phone down now when I come into the room so he can give me the undivided attention. Those things are huge.
Well, Michelle, you've been very generous and open in sharing your experience in a way that I think a lot of other people, men and women, probably especially women, can read and go, oh, that's really familiar to me. And there's a lot you've shared that we haven't talked about today. But you've taken the stuff that you wrote, you've taken all that content and you've looked at it again. You've made some edits to it. You've formatted it in a way, put it into chapters, and made an ebook out of that.
Yeah.
And you're making that ebook available for free to anybody that wants it. It started with just being generous and being honest and telling your story. And now realizing you've got a number of people that have followed your story. You know, you could probably monetize that in a way. Maybe you'll do other things that are monetized, but you've decided to take the story and say, no, I'm just going to make it freely available to anybody who wants.
Yeah.
Michelle's ebook, Rising from the Embers of Us, is available as a free download at affairhealing.com/rising. No cost, nothing required. Just go to that page and you'll find the download link. Now, while you're there, I'd love for you to sign up for my weekly email. It's a short note from me each week, along with any new resources added to the site. You'll find the sign up right there on the same page underneath the book link. affairhealing.com/rising. Thank you for that generosity. Thank you for your story. Thank you for the help that I know it's provided for a lot of people already and will continue to do so. So is there anything else you'd like to add to what you've already said?
This process, it takes two. It's not easy. It's a process where two people need to be fully committed to do the work. It's messy, it's hard, but if two people are choosing to really go through the process, healing can happen. A marriage can be rebuilt after infidelity, but it takes two. Two people have to want to do the work. And it breaks my heart because if they don't want to, you can't force them. You can't make them. It's just going to hurt you more. So choose to heal you. Focus on you, because no matter how it ends, if you're healed, you're still going to be a stronger human. Just have patience and give yourself grace. Patience and grace. My heart is with you.
Fade